Bhosle. So he's a very famous personality, no need to introduction. But even though a brief introduction, I'm going to just to start with. Mr. Dhananjay has completed Masters in Structure in 1993 from a famous Walchand Engineering College, Sangli. He has also completed his Masters in Construction and Management in 1995, a very famous college from Government College of Engineering, Pune. He has a very vast experience in precast and precast construction of more than 20 years. And since then, he's working in a structural engineer field. He has worked on many prestigious national and international projects using various codes like IS, ACI, and BIS codes. Now, presently, he's heading the design wing of Precast Precision Precast Solution Private Limited, and he has expertise in designing precast concrete structures. He has, in a due course of time, he has presented various technical papers in national and international conferences. So there is a very big introduction I have with me, but due to time constraint, I have just quoted a few of them. So everybody, I hope like me are very interested and looking forward for this very good subject, precast connections and how they influence on quality and productivity. I hope everybody will appreciate and enjoy and gain in this pandemic situation. So I now request Mr. Sevekari if he add something to this, and we can proceed further. Prasad Sevekari ji, if you add something to this,
Yeah.
to
So
proceed.
I really don't have anything to add. I'm excited to hear about this presentation. Let's go ahead with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Both Dhananjay ji, you
Okay.
can proceed.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you for the introduction.
so,
Yeah.
so before starting, just a small views for the participants. So, I would request everyone to keep their microphone on mute mode and the video also on a mute. Or you can switch off your videos, so we'll get a better clarity and better presentation view. And whatever your concern would be, you can put in the chat box, and we'll take all the question and answer sessions at the end of the session. So keep on posting your views, your thought, your queries into the chat box. Thank you. So you can proceed, sir, please.
Yeah. Good morning to everybody. Uh, Basically, while selecting this topic, there was some discussion about whether do we consider the pricing part also. But then we realized that pricing of a connection depends on demand supply equation. Say if these connections are being used very rarely, or some of the connections they might be very good, very efficient, very time saving, but people may not be having any awareness about those connections. So obviously, if it is a very rarely used product, then the price would be anything. And with that type of biased pricing information, probably people may not even like to try out those connections. So that is why the today's topic we have considered the topic as only the effect. We'll try to evaluate the connections only from its productivity as well as its quality aspect, not on the cost aspect, because cost we have seen it in many other fields. Whenever anything starts getting produced in bulk, obviously the costing changes dramatically. So at this moment, since all these connections are not being used on a wider scale, so whatever are the pricing, we should not get biased on those pricing. So that is why I'm just focusing on the uh, usability part of the connections more, rather than the upfront material cost of that connection. Yeah. So now the first question is, many people, I have seen those who are not very much familiar with the precast field. They feel like, why should we have so many different connections introduced in a structure and then make the structure precast? It's always better, like whatever we are doing conventionally over the years, to do everything cast in place, monolithic. But then that is why I have introduced few slides in the beginning, to emphasize on the importance of industrialization of construction processes also. Like right now, that has been successfully done in automobile industry. So how they have changed from their normal way of production to industrialized way of production, and similarly how we can also change our construction processes to something similar to that type of industrialized processes. So few slides are introduced on that topic, so that we need to understand that since connections is one of the critical aspects in any precast structure, so the necessity of these connections is also important to know. Then similar to how these different, if we consider any car manufacturing process, the car is divided in different parts. So similarly, if we can divide the concrete structure in different parts, which can be assembled at a later stage, but which can be easily manufactured at different places or easily manufactured away from the site where the controls are more, and then where the activities are quite segregated, so people don't have to have that much of skilled manpower on each and every activity. So these first few slides focus on those aspects. Then once these different parts are created, how these parts are going to get integrated in a structure to form a structure which is capable of resisting all the intended loads like dead load, live load, earthquake loads, and wind loads. So how these connections are going to perform under these load conditions, those aspects also need to be looked into. And then different type of precast connections available. There are many proprietary connections. There are bolted connections, there are welded connections, grouted connections, and most easier are emulative connections. Most easier, when I say, it is most easier from conceptualizing point of view, but it's most difficult from execution point of view. So I have kept the sequence of connections in that order. The most easier to install are proprietary connections, then there are bolted connections, then there are welded connections, then grouted, and then emulative. But at the same time, what happens is the level of precasting which is expected in these most sophisticated connections, that is very high as compared to the lowest level of execution which can be used in emulative connections, but it's time consuming process. And at the end, I have kept an annexure. So if we get some sufficient time, I would like to show some videos about how these different type of connections are tested at various laboratories worldwide, and how their performances are monitored, and how the codes get modified. Like PCI is a body which keeps on modifying, doing this research on these connections, and they keep on modifying the codal requirements. So that is an optional item. If we get some time, we will go through that. Otherwise, we will just skip that. This is the first part, like what we were discussing in the beginning. Why do we need to study the connections? If we see, car is made up of, it is a very well-known example, so that is why I tried to correlate with this, because now everybody accepts it readily that car has to be prepared in different parts and then only assembled. Not as any single organization cannot directly create a car. That is a well-known fact. So it's like what has happened over a period, over this period of 100 years, that people have now divided the car into different parts, and then they have created one assembly line process where all these different parts are assembled together, and car of a special brand comes out of that assembly line production. So in the similar fashion, if we able to successfully divide a car, is why we are dividing this car, because it is a very complex type of product which is very difficult for only one organization to do everything of it. So similarly, in case of our building structures, everybody will agree that buildings are also equally complex in nature. And right now, what is happening is every organization is putting a lot of efforts to club all these different aspects together and to create a good building structure. So the benefits of dividing these building structure into different parts, that benefit will automatically need some good connections to combine them together once those parts are manufactured at different locations or at different specialty locations. And obviously some special type of elements will need to be casted separately. Say if there is a unit which can cast wall panels, there is a unit which can cast hollow core slabs, there is a unit which can cast long line type of pre-stressed beams. There could be one unit which cast all these precast columns. So assembling all these units together, they will need some good set of connections, which uh, we are going to study now. So I'm just going back into history, like what used to happen in around 1900. That time when Henry Ford was very passionate about making the Ford cars, but he wanted to industrialize his process of manufacturing. So he tried to introduce the assembly line process, and he got the results of that. Like 1911, his car production capability was somewhere 27,000 into 254,000. 1912, it got multiplied 3 by 2 times. Then 1913, he almost multiplied it 3 times. In 1914, he can just achieve this type of geometric multiplication in his production line because of this industrialization and automation of his production process. So how this goes actually, even in construction also, what we have observed mainly is like whenever we try to provide any contractor or any engineers on site, the obvious choice of project manager is that I want very skilled manpower. Why skilled manpower? Because in construction, it's not like dealing only with one step. If we have to do a particular task, we need to complete at least 10 steps. Maybe we can broadly categorize those different steps. And once we complete those 10 steps, that task get completed. So normally what happens when we deal with low skill workers, they can complete one step, they can complete 2 3 steps, but completing all these 10 steps, we need high skill worker. And nowadays there is a scarcity of high skill workers. Like earlier we used to get very good carpenters, we used to get very good masons, because they were in that profession right from the beginning. But nowadays, because of changing of different trades, it's very difficult to get high skilled workers in all the fields for one particular project or one particular building. So what is the solution in that situation? Like we should be able to get the work done by low skill workers also. But if we try to give all these 10 steps to a low skill worker, he will definitely fail and will not be able to achieve the final outcome. Then what we can do is the main problem is not with the skill level of worker. Main problem here is with the complexity of the problem, because all these 10 steps are combined together, and a person who knows the answer of all these 10 steps only can solve these steps. So if we divide all these 10 steps into 10 different parts, and then we use one low skill worker to do one step, maybe he can do one step repetitively
चलो
10 times.
मैं पीछे
Hello.
बैठता हूँ, सुनते रहते.
Am I audible? Hello.
unmute yourself, sir. Please unmute.
Hello, I am audible now?
Yes, sir. You are audible now, sir.
Yes.
Please go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Basically, I was talking about dividing a complex job into 10 simple steps, and each simple step can be repetitively done by even low skill workers. So, our requirement of doing 10 high skilled complex jobs was to get these 10 simple steps 10 times. So instead of employing 10 high skill workers, we can employ 10 low skill workers with 2 or 3 high skill workers, which can combine these steps together afterwards. So basically, this is the benefit of work division. Like we also know, in every field we try to do that. In precast, we also try to do that, and like everybody need not be knowing everything, because if there are 10 different activities, getting knowledge, expertise in all those 10 areas is very difficult. Whereas if we specialize one low skill worker into one special area, then his productivity increases, his output enhances. So that is how we can, even in a precast plant, we try to assign different activities. Say one person is dedicated for mold preparation, another person for making the molds, another one for checking the molds, then someone puts the inserts, lifters, and MEP, and then at one station the concreting curing happens. So this way the productivity of low skill workers also get utilized, and hello.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see this video? Because I am not. Are you able to see the presentation? I am not able to see the red outline to that.
No,
Sir,
we are able to see the presentation.
Okay, fine. Okay.
No, sir. No, sir, it's not visible, sir.
Yeah, because
sir,
normally there
PPT
is
not
some.
visible.
It's all about the internet connection, how it is working. If it is not proper, that is why it may be. Maybe you are using internet via mobile portable hotspot.
Is it visible now, or should I share this
No.
thing again?
No, sir, no. PPT is not visible. Share it
Sir,
again.
please share it again, sir. Please share it again.
So, please mute yourself, everyone. Yes,
One
sir.
minute. I think I have not shared the entire desktop. I will share the entire desktop so that. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it's
Yes,
visible
sir.
now. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So basically, the benefit of dividing work is like everybody need not be specialized in every aspect of construction process, and then even we can get the work done with low skilled workers, and then it can be assembled together to make a complete building structure. And another advantage is that we need not have all the construction activities going on at one place. We can have different construction activities, like different parts getting manufactured at different locations. Like some precasting units might be having good capability of manufacturing wall panel elements. There could be some different setup for hollow core slabs. There could be some different setup for column production, and then all these together can be integrated in one building structure. So there are different structural systems, like how we divide a building structure into different parts. So different systems are, these are broadly categorized, but we can even have some other alternate systems also. These systems are basically categorized mainly as wall plus frame system, in which there are structural shear walls. You can see on the left hand side this structure, there are structural shear walls as well as column beam frame connections are there. Sometimes these are moment resisting frame connections, sometimes these are normal gravity connections, and the entire lateral goes on the shear walls. So this is one type of system. Another type of system generally preferred in residential projects is like wall slab type of system, in which we have all these structural walls and structural slabs directly getting integrated together. So there are different variety of connections for these type of framed connections, and a variety of connections for these type of slab beam connections. And if we try to categorize these connections into different categories, it could be like some proprietary connections. There are many companies that do a lot of research on the performance of connections, not only from the point of its service life condition, but from the ease of installation, from the ease of getting embedded inside the precast element, and then again of course from the service life condition. So all these different type of connections, they are proprietary connections manufactured by some specialist in those connections. Then there are certain grouted connections wherein we use some sort of sleeves and dowel bars type of thing. If you see, can you see this cursor? Like these are some wall panels which are having sleeves embedded inside them, and then there are some dowel bars which are protruding out from other type of wall panels. So when these dowel bars are put inside the sleeve and sleeves are grouted, the connection gets over. Similarly, there are welded connections wherein different elements have got different steel parts embedded, either the angles or plates, and then with some loose angles or loose plates, these elements are connected together to complete the welded connections. Welded connections need a bit precise work, because we need to have a different agency of welding on site, and all those welded joints need to be properly checked. There are another connections, bolted connections are there. Bolted connections need lot of precise manufacturing of elements, like while leaving out the dowels or leaving out the bolts, they need to be precisely placed, like what we do in PEB structures normally. We use those templates to ensure that the bolts are exactly located at the same location where there are holes in the base plate. So similar manner, there the base plates are attached to structural steel members in case of PB, but in case of precast, the same, we can consider the same base plate concept, like they are attached to these precast elements, and the connection can happen like this. Then there are emulative connections.
भोसले साहेब, थोडा आवाज तुमचा कमी येतोय. भोसले साहेब,
Okay.
थोडा आवाज मोठा झाला तर पार्टिसिपंट्सना ऐकू येईल.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it fine now? I will just put my mic near to my mouth. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So basically, in case of emulative connections, we try to emulate the behavior of conventional RCC structure, and the connections are basically casted on site, and we try to keep out the reinforcement from the adjacent members, so that the reinforcement gets inside the connection from all connecting members, and the connection is casted at site. These are easier to manufacture, but these are difficult to assemble on site. We need to see the clearances. We need to have proper tolerances for these elements to get fitted on site. And then there is another.
Hi,
Hello.
Dhananjay. Devashish here from Godrej Properties. See, I
Hi,
have a
Devashish.
question.
Yeah.
Among all the type of connections, as of now, which are recognized by Indian standard?
Indian standard specifies. Indian standard has not categorically specified like these proprietary connections are accepted, but all these emulative connections are recognized, and the connections which can be proved by calculations that this connection is sufficient to resist the forces at this location. So then those connections are accepted, but codes have not specified typically saying that these connections are okay. Like in case of there are some codes for reinforcement continuity connections. Like there is one code about the couplers type for couplers requirement, and the couplers which satisfies those connections, like in case of Grautek couplers, they satisfy now Indian codal requirements, so they qualifies that codal requirement. But again, that goes into emulative type of connection. So these type of proprietary connections, they are worldwide accepted considering their own R&D and different type of acceptance of codes. But till now in India, there is no agency which can certify the connections. It is basically certified based on the calculations only, that these are the moment, these are the shear, and these are the axial forces, and this much of reinforcement continuity achieves that. So this connection satisfies this thing. So that way we can.
Is there any testing requirement, like for these proprietary connections, that we have to go through some testing kind of a thing if some organization wants to adopt certain proprietary connections?
Yes, there are some testing laboratories, and normally these proprietary connection manufacturers, they get their products tested, and plus similarly some sort of testing normally over the period they have, like there are organizations like PCI who has collected a lot of data of the performance of these connections in past earthquakes, and plus they do a lot of testing. So I have kept that topic in annexure part, like where the testing of these connections, some of the videos are included in that, like how these connections are being tested right now. There are some programs like DSDM or some PRACE type of initiatives taken by US and Japanese codal committees. So if time permits, we can go through that also in details.
Yeah. Sir, I would request all the participants will take the question and answer session at the end. So I think we should firstly go through the presentation, and at the end we'll take the question answer. It's a kind request to everyone. Please keep on posting your question into the chat box, and we'll take it to the end.
Okay. Fine. Okay, so basically there is a categorization of connections based on the place of connection, like where these connections are used, either foundation to column connections, foundation to wall panel connections, then column to beam connections, beam to beam connections, beam to solid slab connections, beam to hollow core slab connections, beam to double T connections, and obviously the same connections with the wall panels also, like wall panel to solid slab, wall panel to hollow core slab. So generally people are comfortable classifying the connections in this manner. So we will go like this only. So let us start with the foundation to column connection. Typically in case of bolted connection, there are templates to be made which can be placed while casting the foundations, so that all these bolts are kept tied to that template, and it ensures that these bolts remain exactly in the same position where they are intended, so that when this precasted element, either with these type of uh, column shoes, or there are certain base plates in which there are holes kept like this for bolting of these connections. So either these type of things should exactly get matched with this thing. So that is why these type of templates are used. And once these elements are erected in place, then we can always put the bolts and tighten the bolts to complete the connection. And since there is some space left out at the corners for casting the completing these bolted connections, we can afterwards just put some sort of formwork shuttering to complete the bolted connection by pouring the grout, so that these connections don't remain visible. Here is a small video of that. I'll just run that. This is how the bolted columns look like when they are erected in position. One of the advantages is the speed with which they get erected and the manpower required for erection of these type of things. There are specialty products available, like there are Pico column shoes available, which can get embedded inside the column. You can see this column is casted with Pico column shoes. These shoes typically have got 4 races at 4 corners, and then there is a base plate type of thing at the bottom which has got hole from which this bolt can go through that, and then it can be tightened like this. So once another advantage is like it gets installed faster. At the same time, we don't have to brace it till the time slab comes on top of this column. So you can see once these columns are installed, they are freestanding. The headache of the columns is also gone. This is showing the details of that connection, like how these connections are manufactured. It's like a ready-made product which we insert inside the column at the time of casting, and there are some cavity formers here which are fitted along with this. So after the element get casted and demolding of that column, we have to just remove the cavity formers to create this cavity in the columns for making the connections. And it's there are certain templates which are to be followed. Here it is shown like these are the templates installed before casting the foundation. You can see above the level of concreting, these type of cross either wooden members or steel members are placed on which this template is kept, so that template doesn't get shifted during the concreting operation, and the bolts remain exactly at the same location where they are expected. So this is how the bolts remain there, and the installation of column, the general time required for installing these columns is hardly 10 minutes, which is quite a good time for installation of columns, say 3-4 storied column. Once the columns are ready, we can the installation of beams and other connecting members become very easy. So here the focus of this type of connection is more on saving the man-hours which are required in erection of the element. So I'm not focusing on the cost part of it, but the easiness to install those connections and the time saved in achieving those connections at site. Those are also important parameters. Right now, nobody has quantified the cost of that. So if we have to do the costing of any connection, these aspects also are very important aspects in working out connection cost. these are some of the benefits you can see here in this 3D view. You can see these are the bolts and how they are connected with this base plate to complete the connection. So main important advantages is faster installation of columns. We don't need to have any bracings and it speeds up the construction process. Again, finishing is very easy. We just need to either pour the grout around it or we can just pack it with dry pack type of applications, all these pockets. Then there are same type of connection but with grouted connections. Like one of the major disadvantage of grouted connections is we need to have the columns braced till the time the grout achieves the strength. In grouted connection, what happens is we either leave out the dowel bars which are coming out from the foundation like this, and we put sleeves inside the column or the dowel tubes, we call it, for receiving these dowel bars when we erect the column. So once the column is erected, these dowel bars get inside the column, and then through these holes we just pour a non-shrink grout into these holes to make the connection. The advantage of this type of connection is that once we brace this column in vertical position, then we can do the grouting operation separately. We don't need to keep the crane engaged, or we don't need to have the grouting operation simultaneously along with the erection process. But this is also another type of connections which are used widely in US. Like they keep these type of pockets inside the foundation, and there are dowel bars protruding out of the column instead of dowel bars coming out from the foundation. So advantage is that here we don't need to have that much accuracy of casting the foundations. So we can put a higher diameter sleeves inside the foundation, so that while erecting the columns, the only thing is that we need to have the grouting agency also available along with the erection team, because at the time of erection of this column, all these pockets need to be grouted first. Once the grout is filled inside the pocket, then we have to erect these columns. So it's both ways it is possible, but functionality point of view, this option is widely used in Indian context. These are some photographs of one of our projects in Chennai, where this column was casted in VME precast manufacturing unit. You can see these are the column sleeves, the corrugated metal sleeves. Normally we put corrugated metal sleeves of around 65 to 75 mm diameter inside the column cage. This is the bottom part of a column. Columns are generally casted in precast yard horizontally. So this is now laid down on ground horizontally, but this is the bottom part of this column, and these sleeves have these type of openings. You can see these three openings on top and bottom, as well as this one opening on this side for pouring the grout after casting of the column. And at the top of column, we leave out these type of dowel bars, which are for connection of upper level column, as well as they have some connection with the beams also. So for confining that joint, these dowel bars are taken out from top. So these corrugated metal sleeves are at bottom at this part where my cursor is pointing right now, and dowel bars are like this. This is a typical type of columns casted for grouted connections, and once these columns are installed on site, you can see this is the foundation from where these dowel bars were taken out, and these columns were erected. After erecting the columns, they were braced from sides like this. And after bracing these columns, then the grouting operation was completed. Once the grouting operation of connections was done, then upper level columns and hollow core, upper level beams and hollow core slabs were installed. So this is the general procedure of completing this foundation to column type of connection. Then there are different connections available for wall panel also, precast wall panels to getting connected with the foundation. Now there are certain proprietary connections, like again Pico wall shoes are there, like column shoes are there. You can see this type of wall shoe is there, with which there is a reinforcement welded to get embedded inside the wall cage. And I'll just run one video about this. This is how while casting any precast panel, these type of wall shoes, they are placed here, and there are certain pocket formers which we need to install there, so that during concreting operation we get some space empty, which can be used for tightening of the bolts. So these are the pocket formers getting placed, and then pocket formers are bolted to the mold. And once this thing is bolted, then we can put up the reinforcement, and when everything is done, then these elements can be shifted to site, and whatever pocket formers we had put, those are removed for tightening of the bolts. So now once we remove these pocket formers and we shift this wall panel to site, after installation of this wall panel at site, we need to provide some sort of lateral support for stability of this wall panel till the time slab elements are erected on these wall panels. So these wall panels are then, once they are aligned, then we just bolt them to finalize the connection. So once the bolting operation is done, the connection is finalized. Then either we can just use some dry pack grout to finish the connection so that it doesn't remain visible from outside. So this way we don't have to depend on the grouting operation. The connection becomes very fast. Like once we install the wall panel, similar to columns, like columns where these type of bolted columns were getting installed within 10 minutes, and the same thing we can expect for wall panels also. Like here we just need to make 2 connections, so 5 to 10 minutes is good enough for installation of one wall panel. And using these type of bolted connections, in China they have done some experiment, like they have monitored the erection time of one precast building, and they observed that within 12 days only 8 workers could finish that G+1 type of building. This is a video of that. This building was done using all Pico connections. You can see this building was having precast elements like foundations, columns, beams, and facade panels, and everything was done using proprietary connections like Pico. Here the point, one important point is like if the site is very tightly placed and we don't have sufficient storage place available and we go for these type of proprietary connections, in that case, even without any proper storage, we can directly install. You can see here the trailer is standing here and they are just picking all these elements directly from the trailer and installing on site. So we don't need to have proper storage place. It reduces the handling of element also. Element can be directly taken from trailer and installed on site. And here they have given the timeline, like when it started the installation process, and on a CCTV camera they recorded how much time was required for completing of the building. Here also the column installation was getting completed within 10 minutes, each column getting installed. So even the trailer could also wait for that much time because installation is very fast. So it doesn't need to get unloaded. Almost the similar time which is needed for unloading of a trailer, in the almost in the same time these elements were getting erected on site. So this way, even the crane time also gets saved. So in this case, almost 60% of crane time was saved. So if we try to load that time on the cost of connections, probably that would be work out cheaper. And this is how the other activities are going on. Now they are putting up beams on these corbels. And since they had used these type of column shoes, they don't need to brace the column temporarily, so they get a lot of working space there, and it increases the efficiency of the workers who are working on site. And even any type of weather, these type of connections can be installed. So you can see this first floor is getting completed within hardly 4 to 5 days. This type of there are certain proprietary connections of corbels also, wherein they have got steel corbels put inside the beams for easy installation of the beams. And now the installation of roof slab. So basically they finished installation of all these elements, a G+1 structure building, within 12 days. And if we consider the overheads of site staff and overheads of the cranes and other equipments which get engaged in execution of project, so this is one of the very good achievements of bolted connections. Only thing is that while casting these elements, we need to be very precise about the placement of these wall shoes or column shoes, and at the same time at the foundation level also we need to use proper templates to keep the bolts in exact position. That was about the bolted connections. Now we look at the grouted type of connections, wherein there are these are commonly used connection at present in India, either a single dowel connection of wall panel, wherein the wall panel has got these type of corrugated metal sleeves and dowel bars are coming out of the foundation walls, stub walls normally we call it. Generally the foundation as well as wall up to ground level, up to the grade slab level, that is done in RCC, so that we can easily align all these dowels which come out of the wall panel, and we get one plain surface for these wall panels to get erected on site. So these are called grouted connections because once these dowel bars go inside the corrugated metal sleeves, we pour the non-shrink grout to complete these connections. and we need to provide some temporary bracings to these wall panels till the time the slab elements get erected. These are some of the photographs of a project where wall panels are getting installed on site. But the only thing is that you can see the height of dowel bars, like they are up to, sometimes it is LD plus 10 dB. So mostly around 1 meter, 1.5 meter height of the dowel bar is needed to get inserted inside the wall panel. This is for one of the projects in Qatar where they were having so many number of dowel bars, many places 32 at 200 and 40 at 200, but they were still able to achieve this thing using corrugated metal sleeves type of connections. So again, in this case, we need to brace these wall panels the moment they are installed on site. Plus, we need a lot of manpower on site to install these dowel bars, because we need to get all these dowel bars inside the corrugated metal sleeves before lowering these wall panels down. And after the wall panel is erected in position, we align it using push-pull props and then grout the connections. Now we come to column beam type of connections. These are the general type of column beam connections used in precast. The column beam connections typically have these type of corbels for erection purpose. Many times they are used even for transferring the service load also, like in this case. Once the beam is erected, there are certain sleeves inside the beam, and there are dowel bars left out from this corbel, so that once this beam is erected, for erection stability, these sleeves are grouted, and once the beams are ensured against overturning and the grout is set, then we can erect the slab elements which are going to come on these beams. These are some of the photographs of this type of connection. This is one hotel project which we had done in Chennai. You can see these type of columns are having these corbels, and these beams are sitting on corbels, and there are dowel bars which are coming out from this corbel, and these dowel bars go inside the sleeves which are provided inside in this beam. And once the beam is installed on site, we have to grout those sleeves to ensure the lateral stability of these beams. Then these hollow core slabs can be installed on the beams. So this is how typically these type of connections work. There are two type of connections. One is a pin type of connection, like what we are seeing in the last slide. Here, since there is no bottom bar continuity, this type of connection can act more like a pin connection, and during dead load live load condition it may provide some continuity, but for earthquake condition we don't consider the effectiveness of this. Either we have to provide some welded connection at bottom for making it a moment connection. But in this type of connection, what we have done is, like, we have taken these beam bottom bars inside the column. So these beam bottom bars also get developed, as well as inside the screed we put some top extra reinforcement, so we get perfect moment connections here. So here the purpose of these corbels was to provide basically stability to these beams during erection and avoid the propping of these beams. Then there are connections like there are some temporary corbels which are provided like this. You can see this is a steel corbel. This is another steel corbel which is provided below the beam, and these steel corbels are permanent because they are supporting the hollow core slabs in this direction. This is again one of the tower projects which we are doing in Qatar. So there they wanted to have a quite higher space available below the beam bottom, and so corbels were not allowed from architectural point of view. So we provided these type of temporary corbels there in structural steel, and once these beams are installed, the screeding operation, everything is done, then these corbels would be taken out, because main load transfer is happening through the reinforcement which goes inside the column from these beams. So these type of we can either have permanent corbels, or we can even have these type of temporary corbels. Again, even in temporary corbels also, either we bolt these type of dowel bars, or we can weld these dowel bars which gets grouted inside the beam for stability of the beams during erection purpose. And there are certain proprietary connections in this case, but these type of connections are called as invisible connections. Normally Halfven moment provide these type of invisible connections. The beauty of these connections is that we don't need any type of corbel, uh, either temporary or permanent, coming out from the column to raise the beam. But another issue with this is like the limitation of this connection is that this can be used as a pin connection. It cannot transfer any moment, because you can see this knife where my arrow is pointing right now. This knife goes inside the column where there is a column unit placed, a steel unit for receiving this knife. So it provides mainly, it transfers only the shear force of this beam into the column. It cannot transfer the moment. So this is called as a shear connection. Advantage is again the same, like very less crane engagement. Once the element is lowered into position, we can just pull out the knife which goes inside this column unit. So this happens very quickly, the pinned connection. This can be specifically very useful in case of circular columns, where we have to connect the beams to the circular columns, and obviously we can't have any type of corbels which are coming out of a circular column, and then one is that it looks very ugly, another is that the mold becomes very complicated, having a circular shaped column mold plus corbel coming out of it. So instead of doing that, we can just provide this type of uh, receiving element inside the column of this connection, and then we can have a knife type of connection inside the beam which comes out and completes the connection like this. So finally we see the connection like this. So since these connections are not visible from any side, they are called as invisible connections. And there are certain guidelines which are prescribed by these manufacturers, like how to have fire proofing done of these connections. Like they provide some sort of Becker rods and then grouting around these connections to ensure the fire rating of that connections. Similarly, another pain area in case of precast beam connections is about a beam to beam connection. Like doing a beam to beam connection is very easy in case of RC members, because we can just take reinforcement of secondary beam inside the main beam and cast everything together. But when it comes to a precast beam, then either we need to have some load transfer mechanism. Suddenly this thing has disappeared. Is this presentation visible to everybody? Because that border is not available now here.
No, sir,
Hello?
we are
Is
not
visible.
able to see the presentation.
Not visible, sir.
Because I'm not able to see that. I'll just share it again. I think something happened, and probably somebody else has started presenting something. Uh, can I start this sharing again?
Yes, sir, yes, you can.
Okay. Okay.
Please unmute.
Okay, okay. Is this visible now?
Yes, sir. It is
Yes, sir.
visible now, sir.
Okay. So basically, in case of precast beam to beam connection, the main pain area is about the corbels, because beam itself is having a very lesser depth, maybe 450 to 500, sometimes 600. So in that, to take out a corbel which can take the entire load of beam, generally loads could be in the range of 10 tons to 50 tons, anything depending on the span. So having that strong corbel which can take up the load of this beam, again this beam also need to have some corbel. So it becomes very tedious connection to execute on site. That is why we generally try to avoid beam to beam connections in precast. But if we use these type of invisible connections, then it becomes very easy to install these things. Like we can have these knife going inside this beam, and then this connection gets completed very easily. And here you can see that these type of connections can even transfer a shear of around 70 metric ton. 70 metric ton is a very good amount of shear. So mostly it covers almost all type of beam applications in residential and commercial buildings. Uh, and similarly, it is very useful in case of double height or triple height atriums. Like you can see here that these are open frames in atrium. So if we try to put any type of connections here which are visible, like corbels or any other stuff, then it becomes very difficult to camouflage that with some sort of false ceiling or any molding or something like that. So it's better to have these type of connections in case of any aesthetically important areas like architectural atriums or those type of situations. Here you can see this is a sort of curved element, and these beams are getting connected using these type of invisible connections. So there is a short video about how these connections get executed on site. You can see this is a beam element which has got that type of knife here, and then this is how that knife is taken out. There is some locking mechanism with which this knife is, and it is ensured that this is fully taken out and the connection is done. Some temporary propping is required till the time this connection activity gets completed. And once that is done, then this is required for a sort of fire protection, that some they put some baker rod and grout it afterwards so that it doesn't remain exposed to fire. This is how the connection happens. Like if you see, this is a main beam and this is a secondary beam getting rested on that. And the main beam has got this type of receiving element, whereas this secondary beam has got this knife which goes inside that. And this is how the connection gets completed. Similarly, for any type of beam to beam joint, these type of connections can be used. So this is how these proprietary connections, the invisible connections work. These are the conventional connections what I was talking about, like this is the main beam and this is a secondary beam which rests on it. So basically we need to take out corbels from both the sides, like main beam also need to have corbel as well as secondary beam also need to have corbel. And you can see the complicated reinforcement arrangement that goes inside both the corbels. So it becomes very difficult for even the production team also to have these type of complicated corbel connections, corbel elements manufactured. Now we come to beam to solid slab connections. These are the typical parts of any beam to solid slab connection. You can have a half slab type of thing, and this is a beam element. There are two type of connections like this. Either the entire beam goes below this slab level, that means the beam links remain inside that below part, or if there is a height restriction, then we have to take out the links like this. You can see here the hatch part is the precast part of a beam, and these links are protruding out of the beam, and then these side slabs, they are resting here, and these dotted lines indicate the reinforcement which comes out from the slab and goes inside the beam. So basically load transfer happens through these reinforcement bars which go inside the beam, and then on top of that, in structural screed, we tie this reinforcement. As well, we tie this reinforcement on top part of the beams. So once everything, the reinforcement tying is completed, then we do the structural screeding to complete this joint. One of the important aspect in this is about the propping arrangement. If we are able to provide this bearing of a precast element on a beam element or a wall panel element of around 40 mm, then we can avoid the propping, temporary propping, or otherwise we need to provide some propping here till the time the screeding operation is completed. Okay. Then there is a different type of connection for beam to hollow core slab. In case of beam to solid slab, the major load transfer used to happen through reinforcement bars which get continued through the beam. But in case of hollow core slab, the entire load transfer happens through the bearing of this hollow core slab on the beams. Like here you can see this is the hollow core slab coming on this beam, resting on this beam from both the sides. But the entire load transfer is happening only through these, either there are bearing pads or smooth surfaces wherein these hollow core slabs rest and the loads get transferred here. And once hollow core slabs are put in place, we tie the beam top reinforcement, and then this screed reinforcement is tied, and this structural screeding is done for completing this connection. So in case of these type of hollow core slabs, we normally design hollow core slab as a simply supported connection, whereas in case of these type of solid slab, this can be either designed as a simply supported or in most of the cases designed as a continuous connection also. The advantage of hollow core slab is like it can span for longer distances. It doesn't need any type of propping to be done, and installation of hollow core slab becomes very fast as compared to solid slabs, because there are standard clamps available for lifting and placing these hollow core slabs. So as of now in slabs, the speed of installation is always highest in case of hollow core slabs. These are some of the photographs of a hotel project where these you can see these columns, beams, and hollow core slabs are getting installed. So typically hollow core slabs are advantageous in a situation where the spans are more, say 7.5 to 10 meters, 12 meters. So in this case, you can see here all these beams are put in position, and then these hollow core slabs are directly rested on this. Now there are activities remaining here are like they have to put the screed reinforcement on all these floors and pour the concrete on top of it. There are another type of floor element like what we saw, solid slabs which are used for smaller spans, hollow core slabs for comparatively larger spans. And in case of very open structures like parking garages, typically in US a parking garage has got a span of around 60 feet, a standard span. So for that these type of double T elements are used, and the connection of these double T elements are like this. This is an inverted T-beam, and inverted T-beam is having these type of bearing strips or bearing pads kept on the ledges of the inverted T-beam. And these double T elements, the stem of double T element either directly sits on it, or if there is a height constraint or the beam depth is not that high, then we provide a small dap at the end of a double T like this. You can see here a dap inside this double T, and this part rests on the ledge of a double T. Sorry, IT beam. So this is how the load, here also similar to hollow core slab, the entire load transfer happens only through the bearing of this double T element. If you see here, this is the bearing transfer area. So the entire load of this double T slab, it gets transferred at this point. So again, installation of double T's are very fast because the size itself is quite big. The area covered by one double T is typically say 2.5 meter by 15 meter to 3.5 meter by 15 meter, 18 meter, like that. So once we install one double T, lot of area gets covered. So erection speed is very good in case of double T. These are some of the photographs of one project where we have used double T slabs. You can see here the column to column span was 15 meters, and these were the IT beams, and these double T's were directly resting on the IT beams, the ledges of IT beams. Here the size of double T element was something 3.5 meter by 15 meter. So the erection speed was very fast, and in fact it can even take a very higher loads, like these double T's were designed for 15 meter span with a total load including dead load plus live load of 7 kilonewton per meter square. And Shapurji was the contractor who used these type of connections for resting these double T's. They provided these bearing pads here of the contact area on the ledge of these beams, and then double T's were put on top of that. So the advantage what Shapurji got in this project was like the 16 lakh square foot development, they could complete the structural part within 10 months time period. So basically this happened because of this fast connections of double T's and inverted T beams. And even in this is another project where we have used double T's. This is a data center project where typically in case of data centers, the loadings are very high as compared to our normal loading. Normal loading in residential building is somewhere around 2 kilonewton per meter square, whereas in data centers it is 15 kilonewton per meter square. Plus here the requirement of span was also quite large, like they wanted to have 20 meter span. So this connection was a bit critical because there was quite a lot of amount of force was getting transferred at this connection, and everything was happening through bearing only. So you can see all these 20 meter spanning double T's which are resting on these inverted T beams, and these are also tapped at the end so that they can transfer the load to these IT beams and at column locations directly on the column. Now, apart from floor, there are other important elements like staircase. Staircase is generally one of the major headaches when it comes to construction of any building, be it in any technology, whether RC, whether structural steel, or whether in precast. The main issue here is about the geometry of the staircase, because nothing is in one place. So obviously, if you have to put some shuttering or we have to make some formwork, everything becomes very critical. Same thing happens in case of precast also, because there are very odd shaped elements. Then these odd shaped elements get connected in a very odd fashion. So the typical connection is to have a sort of corbel inside the walls to rest these landing slabs. But then corbel, again, we have seen like a corbel which comes out of a beam, the reinforcement arrangement becomes very difficult there. So the production of that element becomes very difficult, and it doesn't look very good also aesthetically. So these are some telescopic type of connections similar to what we have seen in the earlier invisible connections. These are the there are some TSS type of connectors which we place in landings or in flights, which can go inside the pockets in a wall panels. There is some small video. I'll just run it. This is the animation part of it. This is a telescopic part where these type of threads are put in place. Here the purpose of this Becker rod, actually this part gets embedded inside a precast slab, the landing slab, and this telescopic part, it comes out of this. So to have the fire protection done of this telescopic part which would be visible, we need to grout that part. So these Becker rods are put in place for easing of that grouting operation. You can see once this element is placed in position, this type of telescopic connection is taken out, and afterwards it is locked by safety bolt. And once this is put in place, we can do the grouting operation for completing the connection. So the advantage of this type of connection is we can even make these connections such that the vibrations of staircase doesn't get transferred to the supporting walls. If you see here, these are those hidden connections, and we can put a rubber type of pads here, the shock absorbing pads on the sides of these connections, so that even if there are shocks, typically when people when they start using the staircases, there are some noises which are heard by the people who are on the other side of the wall. So these type of connections help that. This is how the casting operation, these connections are getting casted inside the, this is some video about the how these connections are executed on site. Now let us see the installation part of it. This is that landing slab, and here these connections are embedded inside the landing. So once this landing is lowered down, we can take out these connections like this. We can put the safety bolt and the connection would get over. This is how the pockets need to be formed in the supporting wall. And now they are lifting this mid landing part. Mid landing can be separate element. Mid landing can be attached with the stair flight. Depends on the type of form we use for casting the staircase. Now here the mid landing is kept in position, and now they are inserting the Becker rods for grouting operation after the connection is placed in position. Now they are going to put this safety bolt in position, and now this they are just putting the free flow grout inside this connection. So now this grouting operation is completed. So this is how this type of connections can be done. This is the same thing which is going to repeat again. So I'll just close this video. So this is how these type of telescopic connections can be used in staircases to avoid any type of corbels. And then we move on to some welded connections. Typically in any type of welded connection, we need to have some sort of either insert plates or any insert channels embedded inside the precast element, and then we connect it with some loose plates or loose angles. Like here also you can see these wall panels are connected to these wall panels using welded connections. And these are some type of wall-to-wall connections, the grouted connections. Here you can see these slab elements resting on this wall, and then the reinforcement continued in other half slab. And once this upper level wall panel is installed, we can just grout this thing, and this grouted connection gets completed. Here you can see this is a site photograph of that. that once the wall panel is installed, upper level wall panel, and we have put a side bracings here, and then this type of pouring of non-shrink grout is happening for completing this connection. And this is a case of some internal wall panels where the slab is from both the sides. Here we can restrict the wall panel up to bottom of this slab, but in case of edge wall panel, for this connection to look better from this external face, we have to take this mold face up to top of the slab level, top of the screed slab level, so that we can just put some Becker rod and sealant here to finish this connection. Otherwise, if we stop the wall panel here, then we'll see this entire RC band visible from outside, which may not look good. So here again the same procedure. The only difference is this ledge, which we take up to the slab height. Rest of the things are same, like upper level wall panels are made in position using push-pull props, and once they are aligned, then we pour the non-shrink grouts to complete this connection. Actually, this video is a quite long video, so I'll just try to cut the parts. I'll just fast forward it just to show the exact operation of grouting and installation. From this clip also you can visualize that these type of connections take long time. Like so far they have taken around more than 5-6 minutes just to take the wall panel in position. Now they are lowering the wall panel, but then they realize that some dowels are not aligned or something like that. So obviously they will have to align those dowel bars to sleeves so that this connection can be made. And plus you can see the amount of manpower also required for establishing this connection, that it's like man-to-man marking. Every dowel bar needs to be aligned properly to ensure that it goes inside the sleeve. You can see once the wall panel is erected, they have to put shims in place. In case of low-rise buildings, we can use shims made up of plastic or any other material, but in case of high-rise building, we emphasize to provide steel shims so that there should not be any voids formed inside the wall panels. And once these shims are placed in position, they have to align it a bit to ensure the plumb and verticality of the wall panels. So once that operation is done, they do this type of they install these type of sockets. A threaded socket gets installed inside a wall for fixing the props in position. So many times these people don't have rebar locator with them, so they do some sort of trial and error. They try to put this thing at one location, and if they hit a reinforcement bar, they shift the location. And once the socket gets installed, they tighten these type of push-pull props there. So this is at the top end that the push-pull prop is tightened. Similarly, at the bottom on the slab, they are tightening these push-pull props by having those threaded sockets inserted inside the slabs. So once these push-pull props are secured in position, they do the aligning part of it by adjusting this push-pull prop. They can align the wall panel. So now they are doing some alignment part of it, verticality checking. There are different methods, like here they are using this type of some alignment method. Nowadays they do it using total station. One person stands aside here and then he points at 2-3 different points of a wall, and he just guides them to bring it forward or backward by 3-4 mm, and then it's done. So I'll just forward this thing a bit. This is how once the wall is ensured in position, they just remove the clutches of crane. So the crane engagement time is quite high in this case. Like crane has to be holding the wall till the time these sides gets properly braced. Then this is how they block the bottom part of this using dry pack type of thing, so that during grouting operation grout doesn't flow out. And these are the grout holes from where now they are preparing for grouting operation. Here they are going to provide the grout, non-shrink grout. Nowadays in India also there are almost all type of grouts available. Like Ultratech also has got grouts like Power Grout, NS1, NS2. Similarly, Convex GP2 is there, Sika Grout 214 is there. So these type of premix grouts are poured from top, and once the holes are completely filled up with grouts, then they just remove those things. Now, one important thing while mixing the grout is this type of mechanical mixing is important, so that the grout becomes quite consistent. There should not be any lumps of these unmixed parts in the grout. So these type of mixers are used for preparing the grouts. And once the grout is ready, they just have to pour that grout from height so that it reaches everywhere. So this is how, once the grouting is completed, they just seal those joints. And this is how the wall panel installation gets completed. Then there are, for reinforcement continuity, there are some these type of products also, ready-made products. These are basically groutic couplers. These are similar to our normal threaded coupler. What happens in case of threaded coupler, there is threading on both the bars, as well as the coupler also has got threading, and it gets both the bars get connected to each other. But in case of precast, what happens is when this element is precast and this element is precast, these bars never come exactly in alignment. So we need to have some tolerance in the coupler. So this is provided by these type of groutic couplers, where one edge is threaded and another edge has got this type of play, and this joint is grouted, so that this bar gets complete grip on this groutic coupler. So these type of connections are called as groutic couplers, and nowadays they are also available. The Dextra groutic couplers are available easily in India. They have done the testing also, whatever we specified for suitability of these couplers with the Indian codes. This is how these couplers are placed inside the wall panels, inside the columns. You can see these small couplers. The advantage is that, as we have seen in the last slides, in case of corrugated metal sleeves, the reinforcement projection and these sleeve sizes are very high. So erection becomes very difficult. In these type of groutic couplers, it becomes very easy. Like these are very small heights we need to manage during the erection process. So this is how these connections are kept like this. These are the projecting bars. What we have seen earlier, like these bars were protruding out by more than 1 meter, 1.5 meters. Now you can see these bars are coming out hardly 400, 300 in that range. Whereas these are the groutic couplers from bottom. This is the top of a column, this is bottom of a column. And again, the sideways connections, we have to make some bracings here. Here is some small clip of this, how this works. Like this is one project, I think in Thailand, where they have used these type of groutic couplers. Even in case of shear walls, they have used it. From 8 to 38 story, they have used these type of groutic couplers. And this was the design which was used there. Like you can see 25 dia bars at a spacing of maybe around 300 to 50. You can see they are quite closely spaced and very high strength concrete. So you get these type of connections out for pressure grouting, those things. This is how the installation of that coupler happens at site. There are some bottom seals provided during casting of that element, so that here you can see this is how the couplers are positioned on site, and once the element get casted, the bottom sealing part is removed, and you can see these are the coupler locations. So for installation of element, you just need to provide a sort of this type of some sealing cap, so that grouted material doesn't flow out of the joint. And once that is done, these are the grouts. Here the requirement is slightly different. Like in case of these type of grouted couplers, we need to have a bit higher strength grouts, like power grout NS1 we specify in these type of circumstances, or otherwise Sika grout 21411 is required. The basic requirement is that the strength of the grout should be more than 65 to 70 MPa, because this connection happens in a very small length. Only this much is the length of the connection. So obviously the grout has to be very high strength grout. So once the pressure grouting is done, they just seal the connection, and that's it. And that is how these type of grouted connections are done using grouted couplers. Another important joint in case of wall panels is the vertical joint of wall panels. We need to judiciously decide at which locations we need brittle connection, at which locations we need ductile connections. Because what happens in case of a shear wall type of building, these connections doesn't undergo very heavy stresses, because everything is connected like a box through a slab at every level. So these connections may not be subjected to very heavy forces. So at those locations, we can even go for loop box type connections, which doesn't contribute in the seismic resistance of a structure much. But in case where the shear walls are heavily stressed, and the places where we need these connections monolithic, there we provide cast in situ connections. Here you can see this is the installation process. These are the loop boxes which are put inside the wall. This is one wall and this is another wall. So these loop boxes are casted inside the wall, and once these loops are put in position, then we have to insert one vertical rod like this to complete the connection, and then this joint is grouted to make the connection. There is some small clip to illustrate this. The advantage is that we don't need to have any stitched in joint in between. They get installed very fast, and these are a type of loop boxes which get embedded inside the wall panel during casting of that wall panel element. This is the back side of that loop which goes inside the wall panel, and this gets attached to the mold like this. So after demolding, you get these loops which come out of this, and they form a connection with the other adjacent elements. So the advantage is that our formwork, the side of this wall panel, it remains protected. Like we don't need to have any recesses made in the formwork, or we don't have to make any punctures in the formwork for these type of connections. and they are flexible. So while installing two adjacent wall panels, they can be installed like this, and then the reinforcement again. And there are certain standards, certain European standards normally they follow for connection of this type of loop boxes. But their performance in dynamic loading is not established. So they are generally used for static load conditions. And so that is why we have to judiciously decide which connections have to contribute in dynamic loading condition. So these are the emulative connections where we have these type of two wall panels. This is one wall panel wherein this type of reinforcement is taken out from this precast wall panel, and this is another wall panel. We are looking at it in plan. This is another wall panel where you can see this another U-bar type of thing, and these are the loose links which are put on side. And once the reinforcement is tied like this, then we just cast this connection on side. So this connection provides a lot of ductility during earthquake. So that is why, since it emulates the RCC behavior, it is called as a sort of emulative connection. Here the production of these elements is difficult because all these bars are protruding out of these elements. So we need to have a shuttering which has got these many holes made. So the shuttering is not that way easy in this type of thing. Plus installation also takes long time because we have to put all these links and we have to put these tie bars, and preparation work takes some time. Plus we have to put some shuttering here and then cast these joints. So it's a time consuming type of joint, but it's useful in case of a seismic connection. Then there are certain other connections like other emulative connections which are used in moment frames, but these connections are not very easy to install on site because it takes long time to clear all these beam bars to go inside the column bars, and lot of erection time goes into adjusting these elements on site at the time of erection. So basically in conclusion, what we can conclude is like while selecting any type of connection, we need to know exactly what is the connection requirement, whether that connection need to satisfy the dynamic loading condition or even a brittle connection can also work. So if it is very much required to have that as a dynamic connection, then dynamic loading resisting connection, then we need to go for some ductile connections, or otherwise we can go for some brittle connections like loop boxes also. Similarly, while selecting the type of connection, we need to see how much of crane engagement that connection is eating up, because some of the connections, they are very crane friendly, like they get installed very fast, whereas some connections take a lot of time for completing those, so crane gets engaged to that connection. Similarly, we need to see the labor requirement for completing that type of connection, and after for completing the connection, whether any additional shuttering is required, any propping is required till the connection gets completed. And after considering these parameters, of course, we have to connect the material cost, compare the material cost of that connection. But normally what happens is everybody starts their focus on this comparison of material cost. So obviously what happens, these parts somehow are not taken into that much consideration.
Hello, sir. Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. Can you start presenting the presentation? Because we can see the video part.
Hello.
Hello. Can you switch the screen to presentation, please?
I'm not able to hear you clearly. What are you saying? Hello. Can you repeat that?
So can you switch to presentation, because we can see the video screen.
Yeah. This is actually the last slide. And considering all the aspects in totality, we need to select the type of connection. This is the annexure part which we can skip, and we can go for a question answer session. Yeah. Yes.
Can you switch off the video?
Dinesh, I'm not able to hear you properly. Hello.
Hello, sir. We can see the video slide on our screen. So can you just close the video?
Your voice is breaking. I'm not able to hear you continuously.
हॅलो.
Hello.
भोसले साहेब
हा,
माझा
हा.
आवाज येतोय? हा मोघे बोलतोय. दिनेश तुम्हाला सांगतोय की हे जो व्हिडिओ स्क्रीनवरती आहे ना तो क्लोज करायला सांगतोय सो दॅट बँडविड्थला तो हे होतोय. तो तुमचा आता प्रेझेंटेशन झालं असेल तर ते व्हिडिओ जो आहे तो टर्न ऑफ करायला सांगतोय. ही इज रिक्वेस्टिंग यू बिकॉज दॅट्स व्हॉट दिनेश इज ट्राइंग टू टेल यू.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
हा 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 भोसले साहेब, could you hear me? See, the title loops will remain in the open horizontal position. Is the
Hello, Dinesh.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm able to hear what he was. His voice was quite breaking. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, sir.
Hello.
दिनेश बैकग्राउंड साउंड बहुत आ रहा है.
हाँ.
Yeah, I'll mute
Yeah.
everyone. I'll mute everyone. Just a second.
हाँ.
Bhosle sir, can you just close the video because we are able to see the video screen. So can you just close it? And can you unmute yourself?
हॅलो. हॅलो.
Hello, Dinesh. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Nothing is coming
We're trying
from
to,
his side.
we're trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Bhosle sir are unmuted. Please unmute him. The administrator will unmute him.
Dinesh, you are please unmute Bhosle sir, please.
Hello, Dinesh. Dinesh, are you audible?
Hello. Harsh.
Yes, Dinesh, I just had a word with Dhananjay sir. So Dhananjay sir told me that we can go ahead with the question answer session. So please unmute Dhananjay sir.
Actually, I can mute him. I can't unmute him. So can you ask him to unmute himself and just close the video part?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.